Hi there and welcome to the AV.com YouTube channel. My name's Tim and we're really excited to have you with us here today because today we're going to be looking at the brand new Bowers and Wilkins 600 Series 3 range of loudspeakers. Now these replace the outgoing Series 2 model and at first glance you might think that they look quite similar. But the truth is the guys at Bowers have replaced and changed pretty much everything in these models. So to help us go through that and decide whether they're the right loudspeakers for you is Zilvi from Bowers and Wilkins. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Tim. Hey guys, it's great to be here.
Let's get into it. So Zilvi, before we get stuck into the speakers, I think we should talk about Bowers and Wilkins themselves. Obviously, if we're in the industry, we've heard of them. They're an iconic brand, but maybe some people aren't quite as familiar. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about Bowers and Wilkins, the brand, its history?
So Bowers and Wilkins have been around since 1966 and we've been based down in Worthing. Our founder, John Bowers, his ethos was to hear true as the artist intended. And that's a kind of North Star that we've taken from whether it's in the studio, in Abbey Road Studios, say our partnerships that we've had for over 40 years, or our automotive partnerships that we've got with McLaren, the likes of BMW, and most recently Aston Martin. And also that takes us into our series of loudspeakers that we've got here for you today.
That's really cool. I think that tie-up with Abbey Road in particular is absolutely awesome. When you think about the musical gods that have been through that studio, and to think that how much music that we've listened to has first started on Bowers and Wilkins speakers is really awesome.
Adele, Pink Floyd, you've got Oasis, like the list goes on, doesn't it?
So just how long has the 600 series been in Bowers' range of loudspeakers?
For almost 30 years, technically 28 years, we've had various iterations in that time of the 600 series.
So Zilvi, why don't you take us through the models in the lineup?
Yeah, so let's begin with the 607 bookshelf speaker, which is behind me just up there. And so that's the smallest bookshelf speaker variant with a titanium dome tweeter that's 25 millimeters, and below it we have a 5-inch continuum cone or 130 millimeter mid-bass drive unit. If you want a larger sound for a larger room, say, or something with more bass extension, then we have the 606, which can go on a stand mount or in a bookshelf as well, but that also has the titanium dome tweeter and a 6.5-inch continuum mid-bass cone or 165 millimeter. Then we have the 603, which is our 3-way floor stander, again featuring the titanium tweeter. The mid-bass cone is continuum, and that's separate because this being a 3-way speaker is 6-inch or 150 mil, and then it's accompanied with 265 millimeter or 6.5-inch paper bass drive cones.
And let's not forget the centre, also over your shoulder.
Let's not forget the centre channel, which is the HTM6, and that also features the titanium tweeter in the middle and 230 millimeter or 5-inch cones.
Perfect. And what about finishes? What finishes have we got this year?
So we have the same finishes that we had before in the white with the metal detailing, the oak with also silver detailing, and then the black with black detailing. And I will just mention on the HTM6 center channel, that can be positioned in furniture or on top of furniture as well.
Perfect. And if I'm right in thinking, this is actually the 8th iteration of this range of speakers. So you've been building and building and building on improvements. So I think now we're at Series 3. Let's talk about some of those improvements that have come to this range specifically. Do you want to take us through some of the things that have changed in this range?
So in terms of technologies, let's start off with the all-new titanium dome tweeter that we see just behind the grill mesh here. So all new material that's moving away from the aluminium into a titanium material that still retains its high resolution and detail that previous renditions have had, but offers a smoother, more refined sound because of the material and the stiffness and the dampening that you get from the titanium. Next, you have the diaphragm, which is larger. So that's trickle down or cascaded technology straight from the 700 series that gives it a more open sound out of the cabinet. Behind the titanium dome tweeter, we also have an elongated tube loading system that allows, again, for a more open sound, less of the cabinet. And that finally ties up with, or is tied together with, the grill mesh that's derived from the 800 series signatures that we've just released.
Wow, so that sounds like there's actually quite a lot different with that tweeter. And I think that's the epitome of trickle-down technology, when we've got a mesh grill here that's actually borrowed from the 800 signature series that you've just released. And actually, there's quite a lot going on there. There's quite a few things that have changed. And cumulatively, I think the most important thing is the titanium material. Why have you gone for that and not maybe gone for what you've got, the carbon variant in the 700 series?
So the reason that it's not a carbon tweeter is to keep the affordability of the range to a category where it's still affordable for many people. Carbon fiber is kind of rarefied 700 series technology, and it's more expensive. So to keep the costs down and affordable as best as we can, we've gone for titanium, which does a tremendous job.
So moving on to some of the other elements, if we just look at the continuum cone, this is in the floor standard here, but obviously there's continuum cone across the range. What's going on with that driver?
So the continuum cone is a in-house material that's a woven fabric that's coated, that we use in the entirety of the Bowers and Wilkins loudspeaker range, from the 600 to the 700 and into the 800 range also.
Brill. Now, we mentioned earlier that they look very similar, but the eagle-eyed amongst you might have actually spotted a slight difference. I noticed that actually on all the models, the tweeter and the mid-bass driver, or in this case, the mid-range driver, are actually closer together. What was the decision behind that?
Very well spotted there, Tim. So we've done that specifically to enhance the imagery by bringing the tweeter and the mid-bass cones closer together.
Brilliant. So we've talked quite a lot about the front of the speakers. So now let's flip it round to the rear. There's actually some changes there. I noticed that straight away that the speaker terminals and the port itself are completely redesigned.
Mm-hmm. So in the previous range, the S2s, we had the port and the terminals above and below, but now they're separated. So that offers extra stiffness and rigidity to the actual cabinets, and offers a better connection for spade terminals and for using more expensive cabling as well.
Yeah, I think it's much easier when they're side by side to get
Absolutely.
to get those higher quality speaker cables and spade connections in. The port itself, though, is also redesigned. We were just looking at them earlier, and we got the outgoing model here, and we were looking down the port, and you can see that actually it's very different as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So from behind, what Tim's referring to is you used to be able to see through the port to the front of the tweeter in the previous model, whereas with the new port design, it kind of goes down and to the side, and that allows for a better bass response and also stiffness of the cabinet in those lower frequencies.
Am I right in thinking there's been some changes to the crossover as well in this range of speakers?
So all speakers across the range benefit from all new crossovers in the high and low frequencies, and also new bypass capacitors that smooths out the signal.
I think that's really quite incredible, because actually what we've done is we've just said tweeters improved, mid-bass drivers have had a better motor system, the rear port's been improved, the speaker terminals have been improved. So actually pretty much everything, and the crossover as well. So we really have, you really have changed everything about this speaker, and taken what was already a really well-reviewed speaker and pushed it forward. Talk to me a little bit about the way you voice these speakers, because I think you took a slightly different approach with the outgoing Series 2, is that right?
Yeah, so when we were doing research and development for both for the entire range, we used multiple amplifiers, not just A and B amplification. We tested them with over 40 different amplifiers, from class A, B, from the premium range to very affordable kind of your everyday all-in-one streamers, your class D amplifications as well. And we really did hone in on whatever amplification you pair this system to, or these speakers to, it's going to sound refined and smooth, and we're really happy about it.
I think that's really important, because a lot of our viewers at home, hi-fi comes in very different shapes and sizes now. I think traditionally everything was sort of 19-inch and was used in a Class A/B design. And actually with the advent of multi-room systems, there are a lot of quite powerful Class D topology amplifiers that have a slightly different sonic signature. So it's important to know that you guys voice these speakers, and customers can expect excellent performance irrespective of what they choose. Now, probably the last thing that we haven't actually covered, and I think this is as a result of a lot of feedback, but the bookshelf speakers, both the 606 and the 607 behind us, have actually had a bit of a change to the bottom, right?
Yes, they have, yeah. So now for the first time, you can connect your 606 or the 607 to the new FS600 Series 3 stand mounts that accompany this range, and you can mechanically connect the two into the stands like we have here.
Which is great, especially for me with small children, because it makes them slightly harder to knock off the stand. So that's awesome. I think my advice, if you were looking to start a hi-fi system and you've got the room, then the 606 S3 is definitely what I would advise. It's a bigger cabinet and a bigger sound, and does sound really superb. So if you've got the room to do that, I would go that way. If you're up against it on space, and the 607 is actually incredible given its size. And then behind us, we've got obviously the floor standers here, which floor stands just have more presence and power, and these are no different. And I think these would lend themselves really well to both music and the home cinema setup. I think that about wraps things up. Zilvi, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you very much for having me, Tim. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you to your wonderful audience.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, for watching. If there's anything we didn't quite cover off, then please do give us a question in the comments box below, and we'll be happy to answer that. If you did like the content, then please give us a thumbs up or a subscribe. If you want to find out anything more about these products, then please visit av.com. And indeed, if you'd like to hear them, then we'd be more than happy to welcome you at our showroom in Bacup, Lancashire. That about sums everything up. Until next time, keep on grooving.